So you're tackling a dissertation. That means you are about to take on the single biggest project of your entire academic life. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to conquer it, with a solid plan that'll guide you from day one all the way to a stress-free submission. You know, all the modern AI tools and research software out there are great. They really are. But they absolutely cannot replace the one thing you need most, a clear, structured plan. Just think about it. Without a map, even the best car in the world won't get you to your destination on time. Are you staring at this mountain of work and just feeling completely overwhelmed by the sheer scale of it? Trust me, you are not alone. So many students hit that wall when they realize just how much is involved. But don't you worry, there is a clear path to the summit. All right, let's dive right in. First, we'll talk about the challenge itself. Then, we'll introduce your map, the timeline. After that, we're going to walk through the 7 key steps to build it, look at some real-world examples, and of course, help you avoid those common mistakes. We'll wrap it all up with some great advice straight from the pros. You know, so many students kick off their dissertation journey just full of energy and motivation. But they find out pretty quickly that managing months and months of research, writing, and revisions, well, it requires a much more structured approach. Motivation is what gets you started, but a plan is what gets you finished. So, let's get to the solution, the dissertation timeline. Seriously, think of this thing as your personal GPS for the entire project. Instead of just kind of wandering aimlessly through the research process, this tool gives you clear, turn-by-turn directions. At its core, a dissertation timeline is a really simple an incredibly powerful concept. It just takes that huge, intimidating project and breaks it down into smaller, totally manageable stages. Things like picking your topic, collecting data, writing chapters, and each one gets its own realistic deadline. You know, a good timeline creates this amazing domino effect. It's not just about managing your calendar. When you spread the workload out, you automatically reduce your stress, and that gives you more mental space to really analyze your results deeply, which, guess what? It improves your research quality. Plus, a clear plan shows your supervisor that you are in complete control. Okay, so you're sold on the idea, right? A timeline is essential, but how do you actually build one? Well, it's a really straightforward process, and we are going to walk you through it step by step. Okay, here they are, the 7 key steps. First, you've got to list every single stage of your project. Then, and this is important, estimate your time honestly. We all tend to underestimate how long things like literature reviews take. Now, the real game changer is step 3, working backwards from your submission date. And always add buffer time for those unexpected delays. Finally, just remember this is a living document, so you gotta review it regularly. Now, let's see what these timelines actually look like in action. How do they change for students who have different deadlines? So whether you have just one semester or a full year, the basic stages are pretty much the same. A 6-month plan is basically a sprint, while a 12-month plan is definitely more of a marathon. The core process is universal. It's only the pace that changes. And this really says it all. A master's is a sprint, a PhD is a marathon, and the timelines absolutely reflect that difference. A PhD is going to require way more complex, long-term planning for things like fieldwork and going through multiple rounds of revisions. Okay, so creating a timeline is a fantastic first step, but actually sticking to it means you have to be aware of the common traps that can derail even the best laid plans. Here is the crucial point, so listen up. Don't just plan for the research and the writing. You have to schedule time for revision and proofreading too. Ignoring the editing stage or creating a schedule that's way too rigid is just a recipe for panic. And oh my gosh, leaving all your writing until the very end, that is a surefire way to tank the quality of your work. So after seeing thousands and thousands of students go through this process, what's the single most important piece of advice from the people who will actually be grading your dissertation? It really just boils down to this. Start earlier than you think, revise more than you expect, and stay in close contact with your supervisor. See, a timeline isn't a restriction. It's the structure that actually gives you the freedom to do your best work. It's all about being able to submit with confidence. A dissertation is not one impossible task. It's just a series of achievable goals. And your timeline is the tool that puts you in control of that process. So your deadline is set. What's your first step?